How do you tell if someone is wise or foolish? People have been trying to answer this question for a long time. Today we are going to talk about the method used by one of the greatest philosophers of all time, Socrates. He had a simple but very effective way to expose people who pretended to be wise but really weren't. His method was clever and has stood the test of time, but not many people know how Socrates revealed fools around him. In this video, we are going to explore Socrates' unique way of figuring out who is truly wise and who isn't. You'll learn how his ideas are still useful today, and how you can use these strategies in your life when dealing with people who think they know everything, and how you can protect yourself from falling into the trap of false wisdom. There are people who act disrespectful and think they know it all everywhere, and sometimes they can make your life really frustrating. But what if you could see right through them? What if you could reveal their foolishness without even getting into an argument or feeling upset? Socrates was an expert at this, and today we will share his secrets with you. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll have Socrates' tools for exposing fools and understanding true wisdom, all without much effort. And before we get started, I challenge you to stay strong and watch until the end. Remember, hitting that like button doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us reach more people who need this wisdom. Let's begin. Socrates had a way of revealing fools just by asking questions. He would approach people, especially those who claimed to be knowledgeable, and ask them tough questions. Not just any questions, but ones that forced them to explain their beliefs. His goal wasn't to embarrass others. It was to see if they really understood what they were talking about. Most people, when asked thoughtful and deep questions, quickly show whether their knowledge is real or just shallow. A fool, Socrates understood, often acts like they know things they don't. They bluff their way through conversations to seem smart. By using what we now call the Socratic Method, a way of questioning to reveal the truth, Socrates exposed their ignorance. He asked questions like, "What do you mean by that?" Or "How do you know this is true?" The great thing about this method is that you don't need any special skills, just curiosity and a willingness to listen. When someone pretends to know everything, the best thing you can do is ask them simple, logical questions. If they're just pretending, their answers will often become inconsistent or won't make sense. This approach lets you cut through the false knowledge and find out what someone really knows. Socrates believed that the pursuit of knowledge starts by admitting what you don't know. By asking probing questions, you can often show the shallow understanding of a fool. The Socratic Method is timeless because it's based on the idea that true wisdom is always open to being questioned, challenged, and expanded. You can use this method in your own life, not to make others look foolish, but to honestly seek clarity and truth in every conversation. One key thing Socrates noticed is that a truly wise person knows they don't know everything. Fools, on the other hand, are scared to admit their ignorance. They fear looking uninformed or weak, so they cover it up with arrogance or overconfidence. Socrates would often start by admitting that he knew nothing, which would catch many people off guard. By admitting his own ignorance, he showed humility and made those pretending to know more uncomfortable. Socrates often said, "I know one thing, that I know nothing." This openness created an environment where truly wise people could thrive because they weren't afraid to learn and explore. Fools, however, struggled to keep up. This lesson is still very relevant today. You might know people who refuse to admit when they're wrong, who argue aggressively instead of logically. Understand that their fear of being ignorant drives them, and they are actually hiding from their own foolishness. This fear of being seen as ignorant makes fools hold on to their mistaken beliefs rather than reconsider them. They fear the vulnerability of admitting they don't know something. Socrates showed us that real strength comes from embracing our ignorance as part of learning. When we accept that we don't know everything, we open ourselves to growth and new knowledge. Fools, on the other hand, close the door to growth by pretending they already know it all. Socrates noticed that fools often spoke in absolutes during conversations. They would say things like, "I am sure," "I know for a fact," or "this is the only way." Socrates saw these statements as red flags for shallow thinking. True wisdom comes with the understanding that certainty is rare. Wise people know that knowledge is always changing, and they accept uncertainty as part of learning. The next time you meet someone who insists they are always right, remember Socrates' advice. Ask yourself, is this person open to new ideas, or are they stuck in their ways? This simple observation can help you identify fools almost immediately. Fools fear change and hold on to their beliefs, not because they're right, but because they're too insecure to think differently. The pretense of knowledge is a common trait of foolishness. A wise person knows that what they understand is only a small part of what there is to know. They approach life with humility and are always searching for new ideas. Fools, however, cling to their limited knowledge because it makes them feel secure. They feel threatened by new information because it challenges what they think they know. Socrates taught that there's a big difference between understanding and opinion. Fools often mistake their opinions for facts. They might speak loudly and confidently, but their knowledge is usually shallow. Socrates would question them, not to make fun of them, but to help them see the difference between just having an opinion and truly understanding something. He would ask, "How do you know that?" When challenged, those with only opinions would often fall apart because they didn't have real knowledge to back up what they were saying. This approach is still useful today. Just asking, "Why?" or "How do you know?" can show whether someone has really thought about what they're saying or is just repeating what they've heard. Today, people often confuse opinions with facts, especially on social media. Many people confidently share their opinions without understanding the subject deeply. This is why Socrates' way of questioning is so valuable. By knowing the difference between true understanding and mere opinion, you can avoid the noise and focus on what matters. Fools often think that strong opinions mean deep knowledge, but Socrates taught us that true wisdom comes from asking questions, not just making statements. Before I continue, count yourself as an exception for making it this far into the video. Now that you've shown how strong you are, let's make it till the end. Socrates revealed fools by showing courage, the courage to admit when he didn't know something. Fools, however, find it very hard to admit their ignorance. They think admitting they don't know something makes them look weak. But Socrates showed that admitting you don't know something is actually a sign of strength. It shows you want real knowledge, not just the appearance of being smart. When you meet someone who always has an answer and never admits they're unsure, remember that this is not wisdom. The wise understand that the world is complicated, and there is always more to learn. Fools are afraid of this complexity and try to make everything simple to fit their limited understanding. Admitting ignorance is one of the most powerful things a person can do. It shows you're willing to learn, that you're not afraid of being vulnerable, and that you care more about the truth than just looking smart. Socrates knew that the path to wisdom starts by admitting your limits. A fool, on the other hand, sees ignorance as weakness. They fear the unknown and hide this fear behind a mask of false confidence. By admitting what you don't know, you free yourself from the burden of pretending and open up to true growth. Socrates famously said, "Know yourself." Fools often lack self-awareness. They're quick to criticize others but ignore their own flaws. Socrates encouraged people to look inward and understand their own limitations. True wisdom begins with knowing yourself, understanding your strengths and weaknesses, and working to improve them. Fools, on the other hand, avoid self-reflection. They never take responsibility for their mistakes and are always pointing out others' faults. If you want to spot a fool, look for people who never question their own actions or beliefs, and who never admit they might be wrong. Self-awareness is not only the foundation of wisdom, but also the key to personal growth. Socrates believed that knowing yourself is the first step toward becoming truly wise. Fools avoid looking inward because it makes them uncomfortable. It forces them to confront their flaws. Wise people, however, use self-reflection to grow and improve. They understand that the only person they can truly control is themselves, and they work to get better every day. Another powerful method Socrates used was silence. He knew that fools often filled silence with empty words because they were uncomfortable being quiet. During conversations, Socrates would sometimes pause and remain silent, allowing the other person to keep talking. This silence was a powerful tool. It made people reveal more about themselves, often more than they wanted to. A wise person is comfortable with silence because they are comfortable with thinking. A fool, however, feels the need to speak, to dominate, and to prove themselves. The next time you are in a conversation, try using silence. Let the other person speak, and you might be surprised at how much they reveal. Silence can be a powerful way to expose foolishness. Fools often think silence means weakness, but it actually shows strength. It shows you're not afraid to listen, and that you're confident enough not to fill every moment with words. Socrates used silence to let others expose their own ignorance. By staying silent, he made space for the truth to come out. Silence also shows respect, giving the other person a chance to fully express themselves without interruption. Socrates knew that fools often think being loud means being right. They think that by raising their voice or talking over others, they can prove their point. But the truth is just the opposite. Real strength lies in staying calm, even when others try to provoke you. Wise people speak softly but carry a depth of understanding that can't be shaken. Fools, on the other hand, shout to cover up their insecurities. Socrates understood this well, and he would often let the loudest voice in the room show itself for what it truly was, an empty vessel making the most noise. In today's world, we often see people mistaking loudness for authority. The person who talks the loudest or argues the most aggressively is often seen as the one who must be right. Socrates taught us that true authority doesn't need to shout. It is calm, composed, and confident. Fools use volume to intimidate and hide their insecurities. Wise people, on the other hand, know that the truth speaks for itself and doesn't need to be yelled. One of the clearest signs of a fool, according to Socrates, is the fear of being questioned. When faced with tough questions, wise people become curious, while fools become defensive. Socrates would question those who claimed to know everything, and the wise would join in the conversation, considering new ideas. Fools, however, would get angry or dismissive because they saw questions as a threat to their authority. This is a lesson we can all use today. If someone becomes defensive or angry when you ask a question, it's a sign that their knowledge isn't as deep as they pretend. Wise people love questions because they see them as a chance to learn and grow. The fear of being questioned comes from insecurity. Fools fear questions because questions show the gaps in their understanding. They're afraid of being seen as ignorant, so they avoid anything that might challenge their beliefs. Wise people, however, welcome questions. They see them as an opportunity to expand their knowledge and refine their thinking. Socrates knew that true wisdom isn't afraid of being challenged, it embraces it. A truly wise person knows that their knowledge can stand up to scrutiny, and they aren't threatened by questions. Socrates was a master at listening. He let others speak and fully express their thoughts before responding. Fools, however, rarely listen. They are too busy thinking about what they're going to say next. Listening is an act of humility, and wise people practice it often. When you come across someone who doesn't listen, who interrupts or ignores others, you are likely dealing with a fool. Socrates taught that true wisdom comes from understanding others, from listening carefully to what they have to say. Fools, on the other hand, care more about being heard than hearing others. Listening is one of the most underrated skills today. We live in a world where everyone wants to be heard, but few are willing to listen. Socrates knew that true wisdom begins with listening. It is through listening that we learn, understand, and grow. Fools are too busy trying to prove themselves to listen, and in doing so, they miss out on learning opportunities. Wise people know that everyone they meet has something to teach them, and they listen with an open mind. Socrates' method of revealing fools is just as useful today as it was in ancient Athens. By asking thoughtful questions, admitting his ignorance, encouraging self-awareness, using silence, and truly listening, Socrates could tell who was truly wise and who was just pretending. The main lesson here is that wisdom isn't about having all the answers. It's about having the courage to seek the truth, to admit when you don't know something, and to always be willing to learn. If you've made it this far into the video, you are one of the few who really wants to understand the difference between true wisdom and foolishness. Before you go, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps us reach more people who need this wisdom. And if you're still watching, comment the word wisdom below so I know you stayed with me until the very end. Remember, Socrates' lessons aren't just about revealing fools in others. They're also about revealing the fool within ourselves and working every day to be wiser, more understanding, and more open to learning. Stay strong, stay curious, and as always,